trial of Oscar Pistorius started on Monday and has attracted a phenomenal amount of attention so far. The prosecution say that Oscar Pistorius murdered his girlfriend on St. Valentine's Day last year after the couple had a terrible row. He is, however, adamant that he did not intend to murder his girlfriend, that he believes she was an intruder in his home. He woke in the middle of the night terrified and, out of a desire to protect them both, fired a Parabellum 9mm 4 times through a locked bathroom door. There's an unprecedented level of interest here. It's being compared to the O.J. Simpson trial in the US. We've seen hundreds of journalists each morning gathering outside the court, just waiting for this very famous defendant to arrive. When he does, there's a massive crush. People are lifted clean off their feet. It is quite a spectacular thing to behold, and I think is even surprising some of the media involved. First witness in the case who talked at length about hearing Reeva screaming, she says very clearly for her life, petrified and utterly terrified.
Just after 3, I woke up from a woman's terrible screams. Just after her screams, my lady, I heard 4 shots.
She says the screams woke her in the middle of the night, and at times she still struggles to forget them. Reeva Steenkamp's mother has been in court. She only attended on the first day, but it was enough for her to hear that harrowing testimony. She said afterwards to an interviewer that it was really appalling for her as a mother to hear how terrified her daughter must have been, how she was screaming and in pain, and as a parent to not be able to help in that situation, she said was really too much to bear. She was there because she said she wanted to look Oscar in the eyes. She doesn't hate him, she said. She's praying for him, but she just wants to know what happened, and she wanted him to acknowledge her. Sadly, and we don't know for what reason that didn't happen, he walked straight past her and never looked at her at all. A professional boxer called Kevin Lerena talked about an incident in a crowded restaurant in Johannesburg in January last year. It's not related to the murder of Ms. Steenkamp, but another charge that Mr. Pistorius faces out of recklessly discharging a firearm in public. Mr. Lerena said that he was sitting in Tasha's restaurant in the upmarket suburb of Melrose Arch with Mr. Pistorius and 2 other friends when one of the other friends passed Mr. Pistorius a gun under the table. He said he heard the friend, Darren Fresco, say to Mr. Pistorius that the gun was one up, which he took to mean loaded with one bullet. As the gun was passed, it went off and a bullet hit the floor very close to Mr. Lerena's foot. He says that his foot was grazed by shrapnel from the marble floor, and it gave everybody a terrible fright. The restaurant was crowded. There were 220 people in it, and there was a child actually sitting at the next table to them. Mr. Pistorius was apparently immediately very apologetic and checked that everybody was okay. However, his second thought was, for the potential publicity and negative publicity it might draw to him, he asked Mr. Fresco, the owner of the gun, to take the blame.
Well, Darren Fresco took the blame for that, and Mr. Pistorius obviously addressed it in saying this can be big. And like, I cannot confirm that Mr. Rooney said Darren take the blame, or Darren said I'll take the blame. But from what I remember is Mr. Pistorius spoke to Darren, and then Darren took the rap as the restaurant owners came, saying it was his gun and it caught on his pants.
On Thursday, when we heard from a doctor who lived close to the Paralympian, he told how he also had been woken in the night by what happened at the Pistorius house. He said he heard screaming and shots, and he went rushing to the balcony to see what had happened. He said he called security, but after doing that, he felt as a doctor he should go and try and help should there be somebody gravely injured inside. He went into the house to find Mr. Pistorius crouched over the body of Miss Steenkamp.
And I remember the first thing he said when I got there was that he said, I shot her. I thought she was a burglar and I shot her.
He said it was immediately apparent she was critically injured. As he looked at her body, he found that she was unresponsive, she had no pulse. He felt immediately that probably there was nothing he could do for her. He described the sort of terrible impact that this incident had on Mr. Pistorius.
Oscar was crying all the time. He prayed to God to please let her live. She must not die. He said at one stage while he was praying that he will dedicate his life and her life to God if she would just only live and not die.